Good evening, everyone. Welcome to BYJU'S exam prep. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about how to excel in the data interpretation and logical reasoning. What are the things that you need to do? How to practice questions, right? What are the things that you must keep in mind uh, to do well in this section, and why it is important to focus on these areas, right? Because the reason is quite simple, because you get good number of questions from these topics, and that is something that you must focus on, right? Logical reasoning, you get too many puzzles, so you cannot ignore them, right? You can ignore, let us say, you can ignore some reading comprehension, or still reading comprehension has good number of questions, maybe critical reasoning, right? You said कि 10 questions aate hain, so you can ignore those. But data interpretation and logical reasoning are certain things. Logical reasoning, if I talk about, mainly the puzzles part. Okay, so how can you do well in them, and while practicing and while in the examination also, why you should target them, how you should do well in those. Okay, so primarily the focus is about group questions. Okay, group questions is your the set questions on DI. Okay, your LR sets, your puzzles. Okay, the normal puzzles, apart from that, direction based or blood relations, etc. All those are being counted here. So the advantage of these group questions is that you score in bulk. Okay, like if you solve a puzzle, you do not get one question right, you get multiple questions correct. Okay, so that is the advantage. Let us say if you solve quantitative aptitude, okay, so quant, if you do individual questions, it will take more time to solve per question, reading time plus solving them. But if you do a DI set, right, अगर तुम quant के 3 question करोगे, that will be almost equal to DI set of 5 to 6 questions, right? Because uh, there is something that is common, right? Once you have calculated some data which is common to the question, so it takes lesser time generally. Okay, and puzzles also you score in bulk. Now, let's know about data interpretation, how many questions you can expect, what topics you can expect, and what are the key topics that you need to cover for this. So you can expect around 15 to 20 questions in data interpretation out of the 50 questions of quant. 3 to 4 सेट्स, ठीक है, 5 5 6 नंबर के सेट हो सकते, 6 क्वेश्चंस के सेट हो सकते हैं. सो इट कुड बी 6 6 6, इट कुड बी 5 5 5, इट कुड बी 4 sets of 5 questions each, or 5 4, like this. You have around this range. Okay, so 15 to 20 questions, which is a good chunk. Okay, as compared to the individual questions, it is better to solve these questions because some data is common. You do not have to read things again and again, right? You just have to read that question part, and from the data table get those things done. And what are the topics do you get in data interpretation is the conventional data interpretation, right? Like data tables, bar graphs, line graphs, pie charts, some caselet based. You will not get questions like logical data interpretation, right? You have in CAT some logical kind of thing. No, that is not the case. So you must know the difference, right? CAT data interpretation is entirely different. They ask those conventional questions rare, but mostly they have a logic based data interpretation, right? So caselet also you will have logic based. Here it is like a mix of questions based on calculations. Okay, so that is not the case in this. So comparatively easy to do, right? You just need to have some calculation skills and certain topics which I'll tell you that you need to master for this. Okay, so these are calculation based questions. Okay, so simple calculations, percentage nikalo, percentage increase nikalo, ratios nikalo, difference, and all those calculations are needed in this. Now, what are the topics that you need to master? Okay, so what are the basics that you see for quant? You need to have all topics covered, right? They might ask questions from permutation combination. They might ask questions from any of the topics, right? But especially if we talk about this thing, DI, there are certain key topics that you must focus on. First is percentages, because many of the questions are like find percentage increase, find the percentage change, by what percentage has the number increased. So those kind of questions you expect. Then second is averages, right? They will ask that what is the average of this and this value, what is the average number of students over the years, and such kind of problems. Then ratio based questions. So I hope these are some very basic things that everyone is aware of, right? Everyone knows how to find ratios, how to find averages. Okay, percentages, you should be crystal clear कि percentage increase है तो what is the base that you need to keep, right? You should know the conversions, like 20% is 1 by 5. Okay, 25% is 1 by 4. So all these basic fraction conversions you must be aware of. Okay, percentage increase, decrease, all such things should be familiar. And apart from that, some basic calculation techniques. Okay, so how to multiply by certain numbers, and all those things like last digit, using of last digit, that those are the basic needs of data interpretation. So calculation techniques you need for quant also. So a combination of these is required. You do not need to know other topics beyond this, right? In quant you have to study different topics. You have to study mensuration, you have to study permutation combination, you have to study simple compound interest. Generally in these you will just need these three things. Now, certain things, some tips that will help you do in data interpretation is, first of all, do not draw the complete table. That is a mistake that most of the people do, right? They make the complete table. वो देखते हैं पूरा table बना देते हैं, right? Fill on, see only this. Let us say, like you have some bar graph given. Okay, so they have given you the bar graph, or let us say pie chart there. Okay, so they have given the number of students in 7 different colleges A to G, but they have not asked any question on college D and college F and college G. So why to calculate values for that, right? So do not draw the complete data, understand what is given, and question by question you should look the questions and see that what is asked. Okay, whatever is asked, just focus on that only, right? So do not cover everything, like do not draw the entire table and start solving. Then second thing is that you should avoid questions that involve heavy calculations. Now, as I said, that group question, that does not mean you have to do all questions from that set. Okay, 5 question आए, you see that 4 questions are doable. One of the questions has very heavy calculations that requires additional data. So avoid that, right? Some people think यार एक set कर रहे हैं तो सारे question करें. No. So if you find the first question difficult, ignore that, see other questions. If you see that these are doable, these will require lesser calculation, so do that. So just an example, let us say, let's take a pie chart case, right? So they have given values for A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like this. One of the questions talks about something in this ratio of this, or some question is on percentage of this, third question and this. Fourth question is comparing some values of this D, E, and F, all three. Okay, and you know you have to calculate all these three and do some extra calculations. That things will depend on the scenario. You will read the question and understand that what calculation it involves. ठीक है, वो तो question पढ़ के समझ में आ जाता है ना क्या क्या calculation करनी है. So you have figured out that this requires lengthy calculation. So just avoid that. ठीक है, बाकी question कर लो. Even if you do 3 questions from a set, it is better than doing 3 individual quant questions. Then this is a common thing which I tell most of the times, ignore zeros and decimals. Let us say some values are given in thousands or lakhs. Okay, कुछ income दी है लोगों की, ठीक है? So that is given in lakhs. Okay, so just ignore the zeros, because whatever you get will be in this format itself, right? So whatever options will be in that same magnitude. Okay, and like you can use round off values also. What generally happens is, like if you purchase something or anything, let's say if you purchased a mobile phone for 18,205 rupees, right? If I ask you how much did you buy for, you say 18,000, right? While general conversations we use round off figures. Okay, suppose if I ask how many people appeared for the examination, let's say 53,290 people appeared, we will say 53,000, right? So while calculations, also make sure that you do round off things, especially in questions that say that what is the approximate value, because approximations may always round off the things. Okay, so these things help do the calculations fast. Okay, so if they've given, let's say they've given a bar graph, that number of people who appeared for the examination. Okay, so they have given 51,290, 47,430. So you can take this as 51,000, take this as 47,000, take this as 53,000. Right, so round off the numbers, ignore these zeros, decimals. So these things help you do faster. Okay, not the act use, especially the questions if they say approximate, you will be able to do them faster. Okay, and there are certain hacks which I'm sure you must be aware of. Last digit, ठीक है, last digit का concept तो पता ही होगा. Like if you are adding two numbers, the last digit is the last digit of the sum of those two numbers. Okay. Similarly, divisibility rules. Okay, so you can check those divisibility rules. Let us say if you are multiplying some value by 9, okay, or let us say you're multiplying by 45. Okay, so you know that it's a multiple of 9. Okay, so check those divisibility rules. So these things, if you are aware of, that definitely helps you do better than others, because you can check options and see that if it is if that fits in the answer. Okay, so certain things which people did not follow, and these things make the difference. And we talk about the logical reasoning section. uh, it consists of 75 questions. Out of this, around 40 questions are from puzzles itself. Right, so puzzles, you can expect more than half of the section, or half of the section of involving puzzles. So 6 to 7 sets. These include different kind of puzzles like linear arrangement, that could be circular arrangement. Okay, in linear also you can have people sitting in two rows. Then you can have schedule based puzzles. Okay, then you can have some grid based puzzles, floor puzzles. So there are different varieties of puzzles in that. I'm sure you are aware of those puzzles, because if you are practicing, have gone through past papers, basically past questions, because papers actual are not available, right? So whoever claims those are just memory based questions. But yes, those questions do have similarity with the type that have been asked in the examination. So if you are thorough with those things, then definitely you know that what are the different kinds, and which ones you must practice. Then there are about 10 questions on critical reasoning. Okay, so not going against it, but just a suggestion that if you've seen the actual, if you have appeared in the paper, these are lengthy questions. Okay. And mostly these are individual questions, right? Puzzles, as I said, the advantage is group question. These are individual questions. So ideally one must avoid. Okay, I'm not saying like you should not do critical reasoning, but avoid that, because less chance of getting correct also. Okay, unless you are very strong at critical reasoning. Okay, if you are not so good at RCs also, that you get confused between two options, and critical reasoning also you will face the same thing. ठीक है, बहुत टाइम लगता है करने में, क्योंकि इंडिविजुअल क्वेश्चंस they will give you a short paragraph and then ask for assumption or argument or any of those things, right? So generally avoid these questions. Then there are coding, decoding, inequalities, directions, syllogisms, data sufficiency. Now all these things you will come to know when you practice questions. When you practice, you know कि okay, directions you are able to do fast, or your directions concept is not so good. You often make mistakes in left and right. हो सकता है, right? It is possible for people, right? So syllogisms, if you talk about syllogisms, किसी को समझ में आता है अच्छे से, you can do very fast, right? Syllogisms hardly take 30 seconds, but if you do not understand the concept well, avoid that, right? Data sufficiency may be time consuming, right? So this is something that is a lengthy thing. Sometimes the lengthy statements may be tricky, so avoid this. Maybe out of these topics, when you practice, you get to know ki what is your strong area, what is your weak area. But puzzles you cannot avoid, right? Let us say there are seven sets, so try to do 4 to 5 sets out of 7 in the paper, right? Because you are going to get bulk of score from this section. Okay, in this it depends on your expertise, right? You should be frank like this. Is topic में मेरी expertise नहीं है, so I am out of this. Okay, so that way, whichever topic you find good, do those in the examination or else avoid. But these are something that avoidable. Critical reasoning, data sufficiency क्योंकि lengthy आता है, general perception I'm telling. Then apart from that, blood relation, direction, word formation, इससे group भी आ सकते हैं और individual भी आ सकते हैं. Maybe you can get a 2-3 question set from a family tree or some direction based question, right? Or some miscellaneous questions are also present. So that is the structure for the logical reasoning section. Okay, so if we talk about the analytical reasoning part, analytical reasoning is consisting of all these topics. Linear arrangement could be single row, double row. Okay, people sitting in a single row. They could be facing north and south, both directions. Okay, some people north, some people south, double row. Then you can have cyclic arrangement like circular arrangement. Okay, in this also some people facing in, some people facing out. Then you have rectangular arrangement, right? People sitting around a rectangular table or square table, and they having some people facing in out. So all those possible combinations are there. Then floor and base box based puzzles, right? Floors kept on top, like floors on top of each other, boxes kept on top of each other. Grid based puzzles, scheduling based puzzles. Some people have interviews on different dates. Okay, there are some people that own different cars, they belong to different cities, so those are metrics based. Scheduling is wherever time is involved. Then puzzles that involve blood relations. Okay, input output, not every year, but yes, you can expect input output also. So practice, make sure you practice once so that you are aware of some basic rules. Then coding decoding based puzzles, right? So these are the topics that you must be aware of. These things that you must be prepared with, and you get majority of the questions from these topics. Okay, so one must not avoid this, cannot avoid. ठीक है, अगर स्कोर अच्छा करना है, so you have to have, and these questions give you certainty, right? If we talk about VRC section, right, even the experts, I find that they are confused कि यार सही होगा कि नहीं होगा. But in logical reasoning, if you have applied the right concept, right, if you have read the statements properly, very likely that you will get these correct. ठीक है, accuracy की chances high होते हैं. You cannot claim accuracy in RCs. ठीक है, आप नहीं कह सकते कि मेरे RC पूरे सही हो गए. Yeah, but in analytical reasoning, you can say that confidently. Say if you have done thing well, if you have practiced well, you can say कि मेरे सारे puzzles सही हैं, confidently, right? Now the second is critical reasoning, where I was talking कि accuracy low होती है. ठीक है, but yes, if you enjoy this, yes, you should prepare these topics also and try attempting some questions. But from a general test taker point of view, I would say कि avoid this, because individual questions आते हैं, they will give you short paragraph. It is like reading comprehension only. You have to read a paragraph and then answer that question. Unless you have practiced very good, or you understand things very well, I would say that do not touch these questions in the paper. There are other questions to do. कि अगर 20-30 क्वेश्चन छोड़ भी दोगे पेपर में, you have enough questions. Okay, unless the paper is very easy at all. Again, if time permits, then come to these questions. Here questions involve assumption based questions, inference based, conclusions, strong and weak arguments, course of action, assertion, reason. Okay, so these are the common topics that cover the critical reasoning, and I'm sure you must have seen all these kind of questions and must have read that how to how to tackle those. Okay, so this is about critical reasoning. Now some tips about the LR section, that how can you do well in this section. First is practice, and that is the best thing, because as I said, these puzzles are very predictable. Okay, now if you practice a good number of seating arrangements, you will automatically find कि after 1 month you are way ahead of what you were doing earlier. ठीक है, तुम्हारा time अपने आप improve होता रहेगा. It's natural because these have very defined kind of, they do not require a lot of thinking out of the box. Okay. If you compare CAT type questions versus these kind of questions, you will realize CAT requires you to think, right? Think beyond the normal things. Here, the things are normal, just with practice, you can improve on this. And that's a proven thing. Okay, like such kind of puzzles are asked in like banking exams also, and the people who practice a lot of these are quite fast at them. Okay, so practice daily, and always start these with the direct information. By direct information, I mean that let us say there is a puzzle and you are given some 7 8 statements. Okay, and it is, let us say, linear arrangement. Okay, so linear arrangement में कुछ एक statement दिया है, there are 3 people between A and B. D is not at extreme end, right? So this is not giving us any information, right? 3 people between A and B, okay. 3 people can be on either side and we do not know the position of anyone, right? So suppose this statement says that E is third from right, as a statement here. Now this is something that is giving us a direct information, right? So avoid reading these 4 statements. I mean, you can read, but just gaze through and do not emphasize on them. उनको हल्का सा पढ़ो, but इतना दिमाग में store नहीं करना है 3 people between A and B, right? So some people have the habit, they read this first statement, they will make A B or B A. It will take time to draw this and write this, so do not process this information in your head, right? E is third from right, direct information hai, so third position from right we will put E. Okay, so likewise you must solve puzzles. Similarly, it could be some matrix based, grid based question. Okay, so if some direct information is given that this person belongs to this city, fill for that person, no matter whatever is given in the other statements, right? So that is how you tackle these. Then while you practice, right, as I said that it requires a good amount of practice. So when you practice, you will understand strong and weak concepts. Okay, let us say you are strong with some matrix based puzzle, right, scheduling based puzzles, but you are weak with let us say circular arrangement with people facing both sides. ठीक है, किसी का हो सकता है कि both sides में facing वाला difficult हो सकता है, ठीक है, कोई strong topic हो सकता है. So identify those topics and try to do those puzzles. Maybe you are not good with floor puzzles, so avoid that puzzle, do some other thing, right? If you are very comfortable with let us say grid based puzzles or some schedule based puzzle, so do that. Whatever you find struggling with, just avoid those or do them later in the examination. Then these are some topics, syllogisms, inequalities. If your concepts are clear in these, and you can just tackle these questions, right, and make sure your concepts are clear, and these are some things which hardly take any time. Syllogisms, inequalities. Increase speed through constant practice. As I said that these are questions, especially the puzzles. If you practice a lot, you will realize that your speed is much better. And first of all, take some time to see the level of puzzle. ठीक है, how to decide a level of puzzle. ठीक है, कैसे पता चलेगा, लोग कहते हैं कि solve नहीं करेंगे तो कैसे पता चलेगा. I'll give you some hints. ठीक है, let us say if there is a puzzle in which the names of people are not mentioned in the beginning, so that is a challenging one because you will have to read the entire paragraph. Okay? Suppose there is a puzzle that involves people sitting in 2 rows. Okay, if they have given that A, B, C, D, E, F are facing south and P, Q, R, S you are facing north. So this is comparatively easy because you know कि in ये 6 लोग कौन है, ये 6 लोग कौन है. If nothing was given, if it was written that there are 12 people sitting in 2 rows, nothing was given that who are facing south, who are facing north, then it becomes a challenging one. Okay, and similarly see that how many values have to be filled, right? Suppose instead of 6 there are 8 people, right? If there are additional parameters given, additional parameter I mean ki in this case I have written just that 6 people in 2 rows. If they've mentioned 6 people and their city also, so you know that you have to fill double parameters. So those things, just quick view will tell you कि ये puzzle आसान हो सकता है, difficult हो सकता है, right? So make sure that you read those and then decide whether you want to attempt or skip. So all these things will come with practice, because you will understand yourself, what you are good at, what kind of puzzles you can do, what is the information given, what all information can you derive from it. So that helps you decide that whether you have to solve or avoid this. Okay. And as a source of practice, you can solve questions asked in banking examinations. PO main level would be difficult. Beyond that, like you can see for clerk main or PO pre-level puzzles. Okay, so for puzzles, uh, just search for them. You get hundreds of sites. There are several people who have these. Okay, so there is no dearth of questions. ठीक है, questions की कमी नहीं है. कोई ये नहीं कहेगा मुझे circular arrangement में question नहीं मिल रहे. Search circular arrangement bank PO, you will get hundreds of sites. Like एक पेज गूगल का खत्म हो गया, सेकंड पेज, थर्ड पेज, लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस अवेलेबल. ठीक है, रजिस्टर ऑन द साइट्स, एक एक मॉक हर कोई फ्री देता है हर एग्जाम का. Okay, if you register on 5 sites also, you will get at least 10. If they serve 10 examinations, 50 mock tests for free. I mean, you can, if you do not want to solve the entire thing, topic by topic, whatever is relevant topic for Maharashtra CD, you can get for it, right? So content is not the problem. Okay, so because there are a lot of people, institutes for banking and all, there are a lot of WhatsApp groups and Telegram groups where people share such questions. So not at all difficult to get content. It is about practice, that how much you practice. Okay, and know the latest trends in IBPS, that what are the kind of puzzles they have been asking. कभी कभी questions का format बदल जाता है, like input output they might be asking some new type, coding decoding some new type. So you know the कि यार क्या logic लगाते हैं. Okay. So these were some tips for the DI and LR part of MHCET. Okay, so first, of course, is practice. Then the advantage of these questions is group questions. And I told you in DI what are the concepts that you need to master: percentages, averages, and some calculation hacks. Some things to avoid or to follow while taking the test, that do not write the entire table, and make sure you avoid zeros and all in the calculations. And similarly in logical reasoning, identify your strong and weak areas, start with direct information, etc. So I hope you found this values, these points valuable, right, and would try to implement them. Okay, so that is that's how you can do well in the things, right? So you have enough time, right? Almost 2 months are still left, so just practice those things. Okay, and all the best with your preparation. So thanks for watching this video. Good night.